like 10 minutes late. Yeah. I know, we're keeping you on your toes.
That's what we do here at the Book Club for Movies. I am Amy LaJoie. This is Samir Roy. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Today we will first be discussing yesterday's film, Mystic River, which yesterday we talked about Sean Penn. This was his first Oscar-winning role. And then we will be moving on to multi-Oscar winning in several categories, but mainly for directing, Alfonso Cuarón, who I'm very excited to talk about. But Samir, happy Tuesday. It's only Tuesday.
I know. Can you believe it? Feels like I've already been through a whole week in 2 days. It's been busy, very busy.
Hello, Luke. Hello, Crystal.
Oh, hi, Crystal. And Luke, you're fine. But I appreciate the sincerity of opening with that comment of apology. But yes, nice to see you both today. Yeah, it's been a weird Tuesday so far. I haven't had much time to breathe. But I'm here. I am taking my break, and I'm happy to do it. Oh, hello, Colin.
Yesterday we also talked about the Oscars and everything Oscar related, and still just in shock over Anthony Hopkins. And I hope people will watch his performance.
Well, he made a little speech.
Black Bottom, if you haven't seen it. Yeah, he did do his little thank you.
A little video.
Instagram, yes.
And then half of it was to pay homage to Chadwick Boseman, because it kind of fell on him to say something about it now, because the Oscars did not work out the way the producers had hoped. So they basically gambled on the Academy voting exactly the way the Screen Actors Guild did, and that's really what created that very strange ending, where I'm like, you know what? If you're going to give an Oscar to Frances McDormand, don't put her. You should put that at the beginning, because you know her speech is going to be like 1 to 2 sentences. It's going to be kind of a bit brittle, perhaps. Just what's the word I'm looking for? A tad caustic, if you will. That's just how she is every time she wins. Yeah. And like every Oscar speech she's given has been like, she says something weird and then she leaves immediately.
Yep.
And I'm like, okay, that's her. She's a brilliant actress. I wouldn't change her for anything. But, you always kind of hope for those speeches and you never get them from her. But they've given her 3 Best Actress awards. It's like they keep hoping she's going to come back with this big, beautiful speech, and she will never give them that. And then we got no speech because the unexpected happened and Anthony Hopkins won. And we did not get the big sort of farewell Oscar moment to Chadwick Boseman. So Anthony Hopkins basically had to say something in his little video, which he did. I don't think it was begrudgingly or forced or anything. But it just is interesting how it all worked out. And it finally did end on a Zoom call. The Oscars finally ended on a Zoom video of some kind. But yeah, that was very interesting. We went over a lot of that yesterday, Crystal. Yes. What's her name is definitely kind of awkward in person. Frances McDormand. That's just how it is. But we went from that to watching another big Oscar contender in the year it came out, and won at least 2 acting awards. So
it did. This was nominated for several things. Nominated for 3 acting awards. Went to 2. Sean Penn and Tim Robbins winning Best Actor and Best Supporting Actor. I love this movie. It'd been several years since I'd seen it. Oh God, so intense. Like, what a bleak film.
Speaking of bleak, Luke is mentioning that Fargo is coming back to the theaters in May. I'm like,
interesting.
If ever you need a definition of bleak visually, there you go.
I wonder if it's an anniversary of it.
Maybe it's you know what? That's right. Maybe. But yeah, this story definitely does not leave you with any hopeful feelings of any kind. Even Fargo gives you some of that. This movie does not do that. It's definitely a very despairing picture of, sort of the rippling effect of, one person's trauma in a friend group and how everyone sort of deals with their inaction I would not say inability, I would say inaction in protecting their friend in that moment. because that was the hardest part for me to watch, was like the kid noticing. He looks inside the car and he can see there's like, an old, like half-eaten donut and some garbage and crumbs. It's like, it's obviously not a police car. And he's like, looks back at his friends and they just stand back and don't do shit, and then let him get in the car and then just watch him go away and then act like, oh, well, the cop. I'm like, what do you mean? How do you, I'm sure you kids have seen a cop before and you know that they don't look like that. Nor do they have weird old men sitting in the passenger seat staring at them. It was like weird how they condensed all that into 8 minutes at the beginning of the movie. I'm like, whoa, a whole lot of things happened. Yeah, and then I'm like, oh, here's Amy Rossum. I love her. And like, oh, well, that didn't last so long either.
It was funny too. I used to really not like her. I just didn't think she was a very good actress. And when the first time I saw this movie, it was kind of like at the peak of me not liking her. And I've heard that she was in this, so I was like, oh man, like I don't like her. And then knowing what the movie was about, I said, wait, she plays Sean Penn's daughter. She dies.
Well, then see, I actually do like her.
Reaction of being like, yeah.
See, I like her because even though I think that the overall production of that Phantom of the Opera movie, even though visually I actually thought it was brilliant because it was, all lit with natural light and like real candles and gas fire and chandelier, like it was all. So I loved that movie and I thought she was the perfect choice to play Christine. She had the voice, she had the look, she had the personality for it. She was just like the one you would want to be in that role. And then like the direction of all the other actors seemed a tad off, and the movie overall was not a success. But I really loved her as Christine still. And then I saw her in Shameless and I was like, oh my God, like that was like my progression with her. It's like I saw her as Christine in Phantom of the Opera, and then she's in Shameless on Showtime. I'm like, oh geez, I guess she has more range than I thought. Because she had started becoming an easy listening hit with like the, the elderly crowd because of being in that movie and her sort of operatic style singing voice. And you just don't expect that she has this kind of range to play all these different type of roles, just because the first time I saw her, she was in that kind of classic picture. But she doesn't last long in this movie anyways. She's gone pretty quick. And then you get to the grief, more grief.
Oh, God, yeah. Walter's bringing up this, like, is that my daughter in there? Oh, God. I mean, Sean Penn has so many moments and, like, the kind of the complete range and stages of grief you see in, like, an entire film. But that first one where he's just freaking out, I mean, I genuinely believe that Sean Penn as an actor was fighting with all of his might against like the dozen cops trying to hold him back.
Mm-hmm.
Oh God. Yeah. Just completely. And then so many like, it's just like sweet moments too of him remembering her and then like him holding it together and going to see her body in the morgue and placing her dress that she's going to be buried in.
That moment was really sad, and him like promising to get vengeance for her, but then you see what that desire for vengeance creates, and it's like the movie's kind of about this like violence and pain beget more violence and pain, and when trauma is not really dealt with, and so the climactic moment of the last like 20 minutes is really, really painful to see happen. Because you just like when he says like, oh, I wish you'd come a little earlier. I forgot what the line was, and it's like, I wish you had not done what you did. Period. Like that's you're basically, and then of course you kind of get to like that moment where it's obvious that the cycle is going to repeat itself because of the violence that he created now wrongly. Like that was like oh my God, if it couldn't get any worse, it just did, like a million times worse.
Yeah, the very end of this movie too, of like being at this, we don't want to give away too many spoilers if people haven't seen it, because this truly is a mystery, as well as a drama, clearly. But just seeing everyone at like this cute little neighborhood parade, and then seeing everyone just like reacting to each other, and there was some looks between Laura Linney and Marcia Gay Harden, who were both amazing in this. Marcia Gay Harden was nominated. God. It's a fantastic movie. One of
And
the
right,
best
also Owen
moments.
mentions Tim Robbins in this movie is brilliant too, because I thought he
Yeah,
was like from the
yes.
first moment you see him in this movie, like you can instantly like imagine the life and what his life has been like leading,
Mm,
since that moment we saw him as a child to now. Like you, like just his presence fills in so many gaps, fills in that huge gap like right away. Like that's a big challenge to do to somehow get that across. Like, okay, we've now skipped like 30 years, from this moment. How are you doing? And you look at him, you're like, oh, so that's how you're doing. Not
You're a
well.
shell of a man. Yeah. Oh, yeah. And some of those lines too of just like, I haven't seen him in 25 years. Like he died when he got into that car. Oh, yeah. So great. Really, really fantastic. Any actor should watch this movie. Learn from these performances. Just fantastic. I'm really glad that we ended up picking this. Although, again, I am also a fan of Sean Penn's other Oscar-winning role in Milk, but it's completely different characters and roles and films. Oh yeah, but if you didn't see Mystic River, it's on HBO Max right now. Please check it out.
Please
All
do.
right, before
What
we move
time is it?
on, it's time for Name of the Movie. All right, this first film, the only hint I'll give you is it is a Best Picture winner.
Okay.
Yeah, Best Picture winner right here. Here we go. So go ahead, and if you know what this movie is, type it in the comments. That says Big Tex Drive-In. Here we've got a bus headed to New York.
Mm-hmm.
Someone writing a postcard.
And it says, "This is me," pointing to a window in the building.
Yep.
Mutual of New York. Clever.
Okay, now
Money.
this next image is kind of a giveaway, I think.
What is?
This image.
Oh, okay.
Do you know what it is, Samir?
I am blanking.
Oh my god, you guys.
The money shot is actually what's sticking in my head, but because I remember that shot, but I can't remember the movie. Is it Midnight Cowboy?
Oh, got it. Midnight Cowboy. Yes, good job. Good job.
Excellent job.
Now you guys
Thank
all
you.
get it. I think, was it this image? Was it this one that did it?
I mean, the cowboy probably did it for everybody because I was like, I don't know why I didn't think Cowboy Best Picture and go to Midnight Cowboy, but
Yeah, let me double check. I looked up the answer. I haven't seen this next one, so I'm trying to make sure
I'm walking here. I'm walking here. Yeah.
Okay, here we go. One more.
Crystal. Yes.
I'm walking here. Yeah. What an interesting movie. It was rated X. If you watch it now, it's
not an X movie.
No. At the time, though, they didn't really know what to do with a movie like that. They were like,
I mean, it's like,
but now it has the trivia of being the only X-rated film to have won Best Picture. So
it's
far.
like barely a PG-13 R movie now. Like,
yeah. There's like, we don't know what to do with gay men. Ugh. All right, here we go. Here's one more. Another bus.
So we moved from guns to buses.
I know. Yeah, I guess there was one yesterday with Almost Famous too. Yeah, another bus. And with Royal Tenenbaums.
See? So many buses. Oh, I think I know what this is.
Yeah, this is...
That gives it away right there because part of the title is in that card.
Yes. I have not seen this film.
It ain't no Cruisin', Walter. Cruisin', I think there's something to be said about that movie. We'll talk about that on another day, perhaps. But there's a lot to talk about that beyond the obvious. No, I want to make "Oh Brother, Where Art Thou?"
Walter, you know this one? Michelangelo?
I feel like that you guys would be the ones who would recognize this. I definitely know this movie. I love this movie and this director. And it was an inspiration to the Coen brothers when they made "Oh Brother, Where Art Thou?" They got the title from this movie. Oh goodness, nobody knows it. Okay, Sullivan. Look at his guild card. It says Sullivan. 1941, Hollywood director.
Another thing says
directed by Preston Sturges. This is a Preston Sturges film.
Shawshank. No. we actually had Shawshank before.
Stars Joel McCrea.
Sullivan's Travels is that one. Yeah.
I love that movie.
I don't know if I would have gotten it if I had seen, although again, seeing actually the name Sullivan would,
if you've seen the movie, that would be the thing that obviously to me would give it away, because Sullivan's Travels, we know it's in it. But I've also seen that movie a few times. I also still have a never-ending crush on Joel McCrea. You know, I know he's long dead, but you know, maybe in the afterlife I'll be reunited with him.
That's right. The next
or united.
3 that we have all have newspapers. We're switching from buses to newspapers.
This was so that must have been how the editors arranged everything.
I guess so. All right. Well, thank you guys for playing. Best of luck tomorrow. Let's move on to Alfonso Cuarón. We already, if you've been following Book Club for Movies for a while, we already have done a few of his films, most recently A Little Princess, which was his first film in the U.S. Film was Sullivan's Travels.
Sullivan's Travels, 1941, directed by Preston Sturges and starring Joel McCrea, available on the Criterion streaming channel.
Well, maybe I will have to watch it too. Yes, and he is from Mexico. He is the first Mexican director to have won for Best Director. I mean, there have been so few Mexicans in general that have won any Oscars. But now, I mean, he, Iñárritu and Guillermo del Toro are collectively known as the Three Amigos, as being these three big directors that came from Mexico around the same time. Alfonso Cuarón was born November 28th, 1961 in Mexico City. His parents were scientists. His father was a doctor specializing in nuclear medicine, and his mother was a pharmaceutical biochemist. He went to the National Autonomous University of Mexico, where he studied philosophy, and then he also ended up studying filmmaking there. That's where he met Carlos Markovich and cinematographer Emmanuel Lubezki, who will come into play many times in his career. He began working in TV in the early 90s. He was a technician, then as a director. He was also an assistant director on lots of films. His first feature film that he directed is called Solo con tu pareja. He continued to work on some films in Mexico, some TV shows in Mexico, and then he did A Little Princess in the U.S. in 1995. Later, he did Great Expectations, which is another U.S. film. That's one that we discussed a little bit in talking about A Little Princess. But it really wasn't until Y Tu Mamá También in 2001 where he really achieved international fame. Like, whoa, what is this movie? I haven't seen his earlier Spanish language films. So I don't know, but that's the one for me, certainly. I think that was, except for A Little Princess, that's one of the first ones that I had seen. A Little Princess I saw when I was a child. I did not watch when I was a child.
Little Princess made him a big star of a director. Like, it was such people, like, other filmmakers loved that movie. I think it did really good business internationally, at least.
That movie was a huge hit. I think before Samir came on to the show, I did a Man Crush Monday on collectively Diego Luna and Gael Garcia Bernal, and I chose that movie because their career has been paralleled and they've been friends literally since they were in diapers.
Right.
Y Tu Mamá También, among his other films, really shows off his one of his signatures that he does, which are these extremely long, kind of complicated camera shots. Often working with cinematographer Emmanuel Lubezki, who he worked with on that, as well as some of his earlier films. But yeah, that movie just like all of a sudden was like, this is nominated for things. What is this? He was nominated for Best Original Screenplay. Along with his brother. His brother, Carlos Cuarón, is also a filmmaker. In 2004, he did Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban, which critics have, and J.K. Rowling, at least at the time, not that her opinion is the best.
It's worth a lot to us now.
Yes, but many have said that has been the best film of the franchise, even though it took some more creative liberties, but certainly the most artistic and just overall good film.
I think that is the best one. It's interesting because when you go back to his his first big movie in America was a film intended for children. Then he made Great Expectations, which was a bomb, and it kind of really depleted the cachet he'd built up from A Little Princess, and it was such a failure critically and financially that he did end up going back to Mexico to make Y Tu Mamá También. And then because that movie, it was like another coming out movie in a way, the power of that film made him suddenly popular. And bizarrely, Warner Brothers, the producers, and J.K. Rowling, based on Y Tu Mamá También, wanted him to direct Harry Potter because they said, "Look, he understands this. He understands what it's like to be a kid. He understands what it's like, what it feels like to go through this change as a child, into sort of maturing and becoming an adult and all the things that come with that." And I felt like they thought of him as, oh, well, not just stylistically, but they thought thematically he's the best choice, which is weird to think because that movie is not a movie you show kids. At least not here. It's a little too foul-mouthed and sexual, I think, for some people to be comfortable showing it to their kids. But they understood the concept and the core of that story was like, oh, he knows this. He should make this movie. And then he put that world on screen in a way that looked like when you read the book and you imagine it in your head as you're reading, that is how that movie looked to me. So it felt like the one really sort of organically, intrinsically understanding of the material version that we got of any of the movies. Even though it was the one, he cut a little bit more out of the story and people got mad, but he really sort of used this laser on this idea of a child becoming an adult and reconciling that with the parents he doesn't know or has memories of or pieces of inside. I thought it was such a great movie, and I don't think any other Harry Potter movie has been as good since. And then it was like he could do whatever he wanted after he made Warner Brothers a bunch of money. And he wisely chose because they wanted him to make all the rest of them. And he's like, no, I need to do something different. But if you keep the same cast together, I'll come back for the last one. But by then they just had kept the ball rolling with that other much less talented director making all the movies. And so they didn't ask him to come back. And so he was still free to do whatever projects he wanted. And he just kept getting better and better and better.
Yeah. He is someone who he really hasn't done a whole ton of feature films. He's worked on TV series, he's done short films, but there's typically a few years at least in between his films. But a lot of his films too, I mean, he's involved from start to finish. He writes or co-writes most of his films. After Harry Potter, a few years later, they came out with Children of Men, which is the film that we picked for today. We'll go into it a little bit, but yeah, he did Children of Men. Did some more, he did a few short films. In 2013, he did Gravity, which was a huge hit at the Oscars and this won 7 Oscars, and he won several awards, including Best Director, He got an Oscar for editing, along with Mark Sanger, and this won so many other awards. We decided, I mean, we love Children of Men so much, which is why we ended up doing it. But there was this movie is kind of just like good for on a big screen, so that was one reason why we didn't end up picking it. But then his next feature film that he did was Roma, which then he comes back with Roma, and currently that is still his last feature film that he has done. Comes back and boom, wins so many more Oscars with that, including Best Director. I think he won 3.
Yeah, because I think it won for Best Foreign Language film.
Foreign Language, and then he won Best Director, and he actually was a cinematographer on that.
And he won the Oscar for cinematography.
Yeah, so three Oscars in one night for one person. And Roma is, if you haven't seen it, it's on Netflix. Just a beautiful, beautiful movie.
I had the pleasure of seeing that at Telluride with the star of the film and him there.
Oh, nice.
It was pretty incredible experience to see that with all of them there. But isn't it like incredible? I don't know how many other directors we talked about on Tuesday that have won Oscars for directing, for writing, for editing, for cinematography. He does every part. He can participate in every part of the filmmaking process. And I haven't heard any stories about it being horrible to work with him. I feel like almost everyone who's worked with him has like
nice.
He just has this like, you know, ability. He does, and he is nice in person. He's sweet and very kind of sarcastically funny. Like he is in person the way he looks in this picture. There's a wry, impish quality to the smile and the sparkle in the eyes. That's exactly what he's like in person. He doesn't have like major airs about him in person either. He's just like genuinely an artist and a masterful one, I will say. And isn't it like you were going to say something, so I don't want to derail.
Oh, well, his next project that he's working on is a TV series, which I believe is for Apple TV, because I think he signed a big contract with them. It's called Ascension, and it says logline kept under wraps, but it does list it as horror.
Yes.
So
I love him so much.
Renew our Apple TV subscriptions once that comes out. But yeah, I mean, writer, he has another thing. Wait, here's something else he's working on. This isn't, I don't know if he's just working on this. There's another screenplay that says that he's working on with his brother. It's called The Boy and His Shoe, but that's all it's listed as the writer. So maybe that's going to be his next feature film that he does. Yeah, but always so excited. I mean, he's someone like I will see everything that he has done. I do want to go back and see. It looks like the only. Oh, he did a segment in Paris Je t'aime, if anyone saw that. You know, that's a collection of basically of many shorts put in there. He did do a segment in that, but I do want to go back and watch his first feature film that he did. Solo tu Pareja. Yeah, I do want to go back and watch that, because then I think I would have seen all of his feature films. But let's talk about Children of Men.
Ironically, the movie he didn't win any Oscars for.
As we've mentioned,
and I think it's the masterpiece of his career. Yeah. I mean, not that any of the other movies.
In German.
Yeah, how did you get a German poster of this? Die Tage der Menschen sind gesagt.
Die Tage der Menschen sind gesagt.
Seit 18 Jahren wurde kein Kind geboren.
It wasn't Rotten Tomatoes. Muss
unsere letzte Hoffnung beschützen.
Yeah, ignore that. I just, you know, when you look for a poster, there's so many of them that's like they're pixelated. I just saw this. I actually didn't see that it was in German, but you know, here we go.
For 18 years, no children have been born.
Yes, that's what
Michelangelo is saying. That one shot. Well, we know what that shot is, because I was like completely blown away watching that. I'm getting like goosebumps right now thinking about it.
It's a crime that this movie did not win Oscars, especially for cinematography. But this came out in 2006. In 2027, in a chaotic world in which women have become somehow infertile, a former activist agrees to help transport a miraculously pregnant woman to a sanctuary at sea. Of course, directed and co-written by Alfonso Cuarón. I think this is based off of a book. I'm pretty sure.
By P.D. James. Crystal mentioned it.
Yeah.
And she's read the book also, and she loves this adaptation. So we have confirmation from someone who read the novel that this movie does get the book right on screen, which I don't believe anybody claimed otherwise when this movie came out. But this movie should have swept. This should have been one of those it won 10 Academy Awards kind of movie.
Was only nominated for Best Screenplay, Best Cinematography, and Best Film Editing. This hands down should have won Best Cinematography. I think it also should have been nominated for Best Art Design.
Art direction,
Art direction, yeah. What did win this year for cinematography? Let me see.
Yeah, let's look that up and see. Was it the year of what's it called? Avatar?
Pan's Labyrinth won.
I would have picked this over Pan's Labyrinth cinematography.
But, it went to his buddy's film. So there we go.
So maybe that's why he wasn't so bummed about it. But I do think of the two movies, this one is the better one. This movie definitely superior to that. As great as Pan's Labyrinth is, I think this movie definitely eclipses it in pretty much every level. It's just such a crime that this movie is not regarded. And I think that's why it's not regarded as it's not thought of by people as one of the best movies of the decade kind of thing. And I'm like, this is one of the best movies of the century. I think it's going to stand up for a long, long time.
Going back to the art direction, this has been one of the most, to me, realistic ideas of what the future is. I mean, this came out in 2006. Takes place in 2027, which we are closer now to 2027 than when this movie came out, which is kind of weird.
Scary.
But they didn't go crazy with it. They're not like, we have flying cars now and everyone has cell phones imprinted in their heads. Nothing like that. But another interesting thing they did in this movie was creating futuristic things and then aging them. So many. Oh God, I'm so excited to watch this movie. Yeah, really. So, this is our protest film because we just think this has been Alfonso Cuarón's best movie and just completely ignored by Academy voters.
And it's hard to imagine why. It's really hard to imagine why. Maybe it just Walsh said they weren't ready for it. It was maybe even though it's not totally bleak, it, I think, brings out a lot of things that we kind of don't want to acknowledge about our culture. Even good people and liberal people. It doesn't make anybody seem perfectly. No one's perfect in this story. But I think maybe they just did not want to see a depressing vision of the future that felt real. It's also, there's so many other movies about these dystopian futures, we watched Blade Runner a while ago, but we can obviously, I don't know, I feel like we can separate ourselves from that future that's depicted in those movies. We don't necessarily see a through line between where we are now and where that movie is when we watch it. This movie feels like the things that are problems today have just been exacerbated by this sort of pandemic of infertility that's taken over the world and they think has not abated, and they don't see any. And so it's you get to see what a society, kind of like when we watch Perfect Sense, there was those moments where it's when people lose this sense, what happens to the culture around you? What is it like? And of course they're going through it pretty quickly. This movie is a sustained, full exploration of that idea of what happens when something like that changes humanity as you know it. Changes what you think it means to be human. That's reflected in the title, which at the first I didn't get that title. And, it took a couple of viewings before it's not like a meaning that sort of just hits you over the head and you get it right away. It sits with you and it makes you think about it. And I just, and it's hard to pick a movie that's the greatest of Alfonso Cuarón's movies. He's made maybe not as many films as other people, but almost every single film is a masterpiece. They're all tremendous accomplishments, and this one is just so incredible. Like it's hard to even think of how you plan a shot like the. I mean, Crystal, you've seen the movie. I think a bunch of you have seen this either. I've seen this too, but I feel like everyone remembers that shot. Imagine trying to plan that shot. If you like shot list for the day, one shot. This we're gonna work on this for who knows how long to get this right.
That cinematography. It's just
it was just like that shot alone. Like everybody who saw it was like, oh, well, we know who's winning that award now because nothing's gonna outdo this, and nothing did, but it still didn't win.
No.
Oh, so tragic. Yeah. But like, I loved also little touches in this movie, like the guy with the dreads. And that's like, you think of guys like that, like, okay, like this is just some like, white hippie. They're, they're going to be a peaceful, cool, like you have this perception of somebody who looks like that. And that person, you hate that person so much in this movie. It's great. Like he does such brilliant, in such small little things. The whole movie's filled with that. I still to this day have not found a strawberry cough strain of marijuana that tastes like. I just love that moment too. Every time when she coughs, strawberries. Yes, like
oh yeah.
Michael Caine is an old hippie. Like
I love Michael Caine. Period. But he's definitely great in this. Oh, so excited to watch this movie tonight. This movie is on Peacock. Which will have ads, but it will be free unless you pay for Peacock. Then I'm sure they have an ad-free option. Otherwise, pay a few bucks and you can rent this somewhere else. But there is a way for you to watch this for free.
If you don't own it on DVD already, of course.
Yes. Oh, can't wait to watch this. Tomorrow,
I know. I'm like almost nervous. Like it's going to be so emotional. I still remember. Like, this is one of those experiences where you just kind of like couldn't even speak for a long time.
Yeah,
you just were like your eyes were wide, kind of watering.
Yeah,
and you didn't even want to move. Like if you moved, you were going to upset this incredible chemistry and energy that's created by this. Like I really felt like rooted to my seat until this movie was finished, and I have a feeling I'm going to feel that way tonight. I'm getting a little teary just thinking of it. There's so many incredible moments in this movie. And I'm like, when they find, oh my God, just the last ending. I can't wait.
There are parts of this that remind me now of like The Handmaid's Tale a little bit. And
I see what
you are fans of The Handmaid's Tale. The new season is coming out tomorrow. So this will be interesting to watch this movie and then to watch Handmaid's Tale tomorrow. Of course, I think they were just going to do it episode by episode, which I can't stand because I like to binge watch things. Yeah. Anywho, please watch Children of Men tonight. Join us tomorrow for our discussion after the movie. And then we will be moving on to our final Woman Crush Wednesday for the month. Another Oscar-winning actress, Rita Moreno, who we saw on Sunday at the Oscars presenting Best Picture in the middle of the awards.
In the middle. Right.
Not quite the middle, but
I was like, you brought Rita Moreno back to the Oscars to do that in the middle of the show.
Yeah.
Okay. I guess you had thoughts about that, but
yeah, but another amazing, groundbreaking actress who's fortunately still with us, and we will be watching West Side Story, which. If people haven't seen it, go ahead and watch it because the remake is coming out this year. So
right, we got a trailer for that during the Oscars too. Interesting. Steven Spielberg has never made a musical before, I don't think.
Nope.
So we'll see how that goes.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. But please enjoy Children of Men. Please consider donating to our Patreon. I put the link over there in the comments. Hope you all enjoy Children of Men and everything that is Alfonso Cuarón.